And calling the meeting to order, please rise for the pledge. Good evening. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank you for attending tonight. We just want to make sure that you're aware that this meeting is being recorded and it will be available on the Honeoye Central School webpage shortly. We anticipate recording meetings through June of 2025 and we'll evaluate whether to continue doing so prior to our reorganizational meeting in July. Please make sure to turn your phones to silent so that the board can carry out business without disruption. Jennifer, do we have any public expression? Okay, thank you. We will forego public expression for the evening then, and we will move on to kudos. Does anybody have any? Jerry?
Of course I do. Come on. Number one, to lead off, congratulations to Bob Stewart, Section 5 Cross Country Hall of Fame inductee, and well-deserved. He's been a mainstay of our track program, indoors, outdoors, cross country for a long, long time. And I couldn't think of a better person to be inducted into it. So a big congratulations to him. The Halloween parade was wonderful on Halloween. Oh, there were so many parents and grandparents and you name it out there taking pictures and watching their students parade back and forth, and the teachers' costumes were just as good as the kids. So a big kudo to all the elementary students, the teachers, the TAs, the administrators for making something like that happen. Another kudo, the monthly newsletters, elementary and secondary. A lot of information, and thank you very much, Nate, and I'm sorry, our elementary principal, Mikey, thank you for doing that. It's really well worth reading. Another kudo to the Richmond Fire Department for their elementary visit this year. They do it every fall and the kids really like it. They get to go inside the engine and see it. They do a wonderful presentation. And the last kudo I have, I'm taking them all, is the PTA trunk or treat. Again, a very nice job done by this year's PTA. The kids really liked it. They had a really nice evening for it. So a big kudo to the PTA for organizing it, and for all the parents and school board members and organizations who had their cars down there and were passing out candy. That's it.
Anybody else? Cindy?
Well, I'll jump in here. I just want to piggyback on Jerry's comments about the cross-country team. They had very good placing in the leagues and in Section 5. Their meet last weekend, we had 3 girls place in the top 15 for their division, which is quite outstanding for a small program. Your son was our highest placing boys varsity runner. The program's a little small this year, but they did really well, all things considering the size. And 2 of the 3 girls who placed in the top 15 will hopefully be back next year. So they'll bring some experience to next year's team as well. Kudos goes to the band. They had their first set of concerts, and we had two students who placed in the all-state band honors, Owen Higgins and Alyssa Bailey. So congratulations to them. Again, great honor for a very small school, very small program. We have a lot of talent in the hills of Honeoye, and we have such wonderful instructors who can cultivate that that talent and instill, inspiration to keep going forward, with the many years of the band program. So this is fundraising time for the kids in school. So I hope that the community will support the efforts of the kids who are selling for their various field trips and all. So that's all I had.
Megan?
All right, I still got a few left, even though you guys had some great kudos. I wrote down all senior athletes. There was a nice little write-up on everyone from the PR on our Facebook webpage, which was nice to see, to make that one-on-one connections with those seniors that are gonna be leaving us. It was great to see that. I put down Red Ribbon Week. There was pictures on the Facebook page as well, and it was great to see some of our new faces from faculty that not everyone gets to see yet, such as someone dressed up as Mr. Angel. So it's great to see that. I also was gonna talk about the fall sampler concert. I'm gonna pass around the pamphlet. I was able to go. It was a great concert. They played some spooky songs, and everyone enjoyed, even joined in some of the songs too and sang along. Rotary Students of the Month. I don't know if anyone else is gonna cover that. I know Henry Sherman and I forget, Marshall Braun, thank you. Both were Rotary Students of the Month. I want to say thank you to Gary Schaefer for his work that he did here in his retirement of 25 years here on the campus. And we wish him the best. Also, big talk today was that Mill Creek donated ice cream during lunch. So I want to give a shout out to Mill Creek for donating ice cream that they had left over from the summer to us for the kids to enjoy. Also, I want to give a kudos to all of our school board members, as they were recognized as well within the past month. So thank you to everyone and your collaboration, all of us working together, and the new relationships that I've made and the things that I've learned. I appreciate it.
Anybody else? I had several, but they seem to be taken already. But I would like to, the PTA did do a really nice job with the trunk or treat. I would like to thank Megan. She originally was not going to be able to participate. And then at the last day, the last couple minutes, said that she could help. So she actually designed and painted our trunk for us, which was nice. So thank you for putting in the effort, because I didn't have time. So I just thank you for that. And again, I too would just like to say thank you to the board members. I know we've been going through our paces pretty quick with different committee meetings and just picking up, working on goals and things like that. So I do want to say thank you to everybody for putting in the extra efforts and the shorter days that seem like longer days. So thank you very much. If no one has any other kudos, we will move on to the Board of Education committee reports and updates. And we have policy committee listed. So if you would like to go first.
Sure. We met. Basically, we changed the Title IX policy. We updated it to match the new regulations, the new laws in effect. What it means is that if someone was to violate it, it would be considered discrimination instead of harassment. So they have upgraded it to make it a little more serious. We had a couple other changes, but they were mostly administrative changes. There was a couple of, there was a number change for one of the policies because they felt that it would fit better in a different section. And then we moved into section 4000, which is also administrative, I believe. And I think any changes we made there were maybe a couple of wording things. I don't know that we made any major updates to that section. I think that's it.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, a lot of it was just to customize it to our district and what our needs were.
So are we going to have a second read of that? Or do we want to forego the second read? I just need to know what we want to do as a board.
We can forego the second read and just vote on it now.
If you'd like to make a motion on this foregoing the second read, that'd be.
I'll make that motion then.
All right, I need a second.
I'll too.
All right, any questions or comments? No? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's passed. All right, then I believe also have the facilities subcommittee, which will be Jim Helling.
Yes, we do. So we continue to have meeting every other week for about an hour. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting. We talked about the roof evaluation that was being done, and that report's coming in at any time. Talked about the tile work through the school. We're looking at the possibility of priming and painting it. They're talking to Sherwin-Williams and was it MCC, I think they said, is where they've done that to see how that lasts. That way we don't have to, what they call scarify it, which is scraping it and disturbing the materials in there. So we're trying to avoid that. And then they presented us with some playground options, so we gave them feedback on that. Today's meeting, we just hit on the tech area layout. They want to get started on that, so they make sure the equipment's going to fit where it needs to fit. There's a hazmat approval coming for today, because they're doing some sampling around the building. The geo sampling they did, which is when they were going into the ground to make sure the ground's stable enough for what we want to do. The reports all came back good, for the covered entrances, the playground, and where the fuel tanks are at the bus garage. And other than that, we went over, let's see, the entrance options. They presented a few options. We gave feedback on that. Let's see, they also did a count for fixtures or bathroom fixtures. And the school right now, we're okay if we get rid of the 2 bathrooms that are in the library, elementary library wing. We can get rid of those and use those for something else, and we'll be all right on our counts. Then we have a meeting coming up on the 12th. We're going to dig into the home and careers and that layout a little bit more. That's it.
Is there any other committees or? Cindy?
Jermaine and I are part of the CRSE, and we met the week of, on October 23rd. And during that time, we met with both the elementary and high school staff who are involved with the committee. This meeting, we kind of had to do a little bit of catch up because we stopped the meetings earlier in the year from last school year. But at this meeting, we worked towards developing the framework, and we did a equity self-reflection, and then that's going to drive our work going forward here to developing our vision. And the next meeting is scheduled for December. So.
Anything else from anyone?
Can I add my legislative committee?
Sure.
Okay. Hopefully, this is the legislative committee that I'm on. That happens the second Saturday every month. This was the second one that I was a part of. I'll kind of pass this around so you guys can see. It's just what our state position is on paper key topics and our federal position paper key topics, just so that you guys have an overview of what we're talking about. It's the same concerns that we have here. It's always good at the end of the meeting. I feel like we're up here and everyone's a step below us. So it's always great. And it's a good feeling because I can like tell them like what we're doing and what's working. So it's just great to see. And that's like, thank you to our faculty, because if you didn't advocate for that stuff, like we wouldn't know. So a lot of it has to do with that. And we discussed how to get surveys out, because not everybody has Google Docs. In the proposition papers, which I'll pass this around so you guys can look to see what we're looking at. There was 10 board members that were on the Zoom meeting. A couple of them were actually going to the NSBA conference, which we'll talk about later. But it was good just to make those connections again. They talked a lot on mental health. I feel like we're above average on mental health where everyone else is. We have a lot of resources for that here. And being closer to Canandaigua, I know some people, I have to drive 30 minutes to an hour to even get to a mental health facility. So we're very fortunate in where our location is and with that. They also talked about electric and hydrogen buses came up. That I guess like certain areas in the country are using hydrogen buses right now and testing them out. So that's just something to have on the radar that I find interesting. One other thing is some board members don't have IDs. So I want to thank like our school for actually giving us IDs to have, because we do need them when we're out and going to different conferences. It's good to have and to represent our school. And I think that's about it.
And I would agree. I served on that committee as well, and it's interesting to go and see what the other schools are looking at. And I do feel like in most of the areas, we are surpassing greatly what everybody else is. And it's nice to be able to share and say, we tried this and it didn't work, but we're trying this and it's working great. So I am appreciative of having the opportunity to be on that committee as well. If there are no other committee reports, then we will move on with the superintendent report. And I turn the floor over to Superintendent Fluke.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we have highlights followed by updates from our mental health team and from our secondary principal. But first, we will hear from our ex officio Board of Ed student member, Isabella Nellis.
So you can go ahead and move to the next slide. So I wanted to start off by telling you guys what's going on new with clubs this year. So in the last slides I did, the yearbook club was just kind of planning out, figuring out our theme. We have figured out our theme, top secret, and we have designed a cover page, which in my opinion is really good. And we are already starting to work on pages. A lot of the senior stuff is done. And then for youth to youth, they have done a lot of things. Our snack shack has raised just about $260 in the fall season. That is going to be used. Madame has correlating with a man in Africa who needs help with school supplies. So we have done some donation boxes for that school supplies, and we're going to help send that over with that money. And then we also have a new project where we're trying to raise 100 boxes of stuffing to donate, that you'll hear that in the announcement soon. And then for class of 2025, we have been starting fundraising beef sticks. So I know it's a mixed topic, but if anybody wants beef sticks, I did bring my fundraising sheet. Just let me know. We can pass that around in a second. And then also we had our meeting to order our caps and gowns, which again is bittersweet, and then student council, we have started working on a Thanksgiving video. So we're kind of going around to staff members and maintenance and the bus department, and we're going to take little videos about what they like about our HCS community and their favorite Thanksgiving meal. And then on the announcements, I've heard that Ski Club has begun its signups. For NHS, the junior members have been accepted. So I'm not sure how many have been accepted. I'm sure it's a good percentage. I think there was about or a little over 20 applicants, or at least 20 people who were eligible. And so that's, I believe I think it's the 21st is their induction ceremony. And then this Friday after school, us senior NHS members, we're going to go to the Strong Museum of Play for our field trip. And then I know Odyssey of the Mind had a meeting during lunch today where they picked out what they are going to do for their meet in the spring. And then Masterminds have their first meet Thursday, which they've been prepping for. And then esports I know has begun in Mr. Dolmat's room. Sports, a lot of you guys have touched upon this. Fall sports are done. Volleyball and girls soccer lost in their first round of the sectionals. Boys soccer lost in quarterfinals, and cross country won the West Finger Lakes League Championship. Modified sports have begun. I've seen the basketball in the secondary gym. Varsity sports are sent to start on November 18th. This includes bowling, cheerleading, boys and girls basketball, and track. And then on Saturday, Coach Stewart was inducted into the class of 2024 Section B Cross Country Hall of Fame. I went around, even Ms. Fluke asked me to ask other students like any kind of like things that she could do to improve the atmosphere and things in our school. And I went and asked around, and a lot of people are having a good year this year, which is good. The only thing, and this was only touched upon by a few students, but the only concern from both teachers and students is the amount of staff that's going to be retiring in the next 3 to 4 years. It's a bittersweet to a lot of the teachers, but also some students concerned how we're gonna get that staffing, just because there are, I know, quite a few of them retiring. And then I have some pictures. So at the top left, I think that was for the girls sectional game. Bottom left is the cross country when they won that meet. Cora Gillette, one of the runners, she was telling me, she was one of the girls who placed, and she said that her and her dad did some sort of math, and for section 5 classes, like there's like A through the D's, she would have been about 85th out of hundreds and hundreds of students in section 5 who do cross country. And then I also have a picture of the trunk or treat up there. I think that's a great thing that I know a lot of other towns do, but that we do. I think it's a safe place for students to trick or treat. And then also because I know we don't have many little suburban areas in Honeywell, so I think that's a great way to get the children out there and get their trick or treating experiment. And then I know robotics had one of their meets recently. And I think it was one of the last ones because a lot of posts were bittersweet about it. And then at the top right, I have Owen Higgins and Alyssa Bailey, who are all state winners. And then bottom right is Coach Stewart when he got awarded. And then in the middle of the right, you can see me in my Elvis costume that I wore to school. And then also talking with at least a lot of the seniors and juniors, most kids, I mean, which is good for our community, there weren't parties. It was people were going out and trick-or-treating for their senior year or junior year. There wasn't parties really. I mean, I know it's not a big thing at Honeywell parties, but there none that I heard of. A lot of people went trick-or-treating instead. And that is all. Thank you guys.
All right.
Oh, and then I did want to add something. I didn't put this in my slides, but I thought of it sitting here. Just last week, we went to our Nevins math competition at Alfred. We had a good amount of students going. The bus was pretty full that went. We didn't place, none of us placed, but I think our highest was 12 out of 25 questions. It's a really hard math competition, I would like to add, but our highest was 12, which is really good in my opinion.
Excellent. Thank you, Isabella. We so much appreciate having you on the board. Thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Of course.
So as you see, we have a lot to highlight this month, and a lot of you did that already, so I will be quick. But first, congratulations again to Owen Higgins and Alyssa Bailey for being chosen to represent Honeoye Band at all states this year. Both students say, quote, they have appreciated being a part of the band all these years and hope to continue their instruments after high school. I thought that was great. We would also like to congratulate this month's Rotary honorees. Together with our Honeoye Lake Rotary, we celebrate middle school student Marshall Braun and high school student Henry Sherman for outstanding citizenship and for being positive community service members. So thank you to them, and thank you again to Rotary for doing this. Having witnessed this with my own eyes last Saturday at Letchworth State Park, please congratulate our 3 most recent cross-country sectional patch recipients, Sarah Olson, Asia Randall, and Cora Gillette. These students secured 3 of the top 15 Class D finisher spots. That's outstanding. And our boys did an outstanding job as well. And by the way, running in all kinds of weather, rain, sleet, snow, sun, like that is really hard. So I just admire anybody who does cross country. Also, by the way, this was interesting. Honeoye was the only team that had 3 individual runners who placed in the top 20. So I thought that was really great of us. Kudos to our track cross-country coaches. Also on Saturday, congratulations to Bob Stewart again, who was inducted into the class of 2024 Section 5 Cross Country Hall of Fame. Such an emotional moment, by the way. I know our entire community could not be more proud of Coach Stewart. One of my favorite partnerships is with the Richmond Fire Department. Each year they come and share demonstrations, give tours of their trucks, and talk with our elementary students about fire safety. So thank you, Richmond Fire Department. Also want to say what a fantastic turnout. I know we talked about it already, but what an amazing turnout, both for the PTA trunk or treat and for the the parade. So high school kids were out, the families were lining the roads. I don't know if it's you, but I'm noticing attendance at all of our events just over the years is growing and growing, and that makes me so excited. And that's kudos to all of you for helping get the word out. So we are doing that to our high school principals, getting the word out, and just kind of all of us getting that word out. Also want to wish longtime employee Gary Schaefer a well-deserved and happy retirement. Gary spent over 25 years here at HCS, calling this place his home. And I just want to thank him for his service to us and wish him well. We will be partnering once again with Mosaic Health for all of our dental needs. Thank you to Molly Perrin, who's here tonight, and Mary Beth Tonkery for their dedication to making this happen for our students. And really, Molly, she's been taking the lead on that. On-site services include screenings, cleanings, x-rays, fluoride treatments, and sealants. Notices will be going out this week. So today, possibly, or tomorrow, those will be going out to all of our students, UPK 12. And this, I just threw this in there. If you Google Mosaic Health, this is Amanda. She's the representative, but she's also our hygienist. So she's kind, she's bubbly, she's going to be great with our students. She's new, different than the person we had last year. And she was here in the building today. We got to meet her, and she did presentations for all of our students, K-12. So Andrea was great, and thank you for finding her. Okay, and now on to updates. Something noteworthy, Facilities Director Mike Kessler sent out a building cleanliness survey to all staff this week so that he could gather feedback, and in an effort to try to see how his team is doing, but to really, quote, providing the best support we can. So I thought that was an excellent service that our team is doing for our staff and for our community. So I just wanted to thank Mike Kessler and his crew for helping make the building shine. We talked a little bit about this too at our first culturally responsive committee meeting. Members participated in a self-equity survey, and results are in. And these results, as Cindy said, will drive our work moving forward. Our next meeting will be spent creating our district vision surrounding diversity, equity, inclusion. What will that look like here for us at HCS? We will create commitments for each of the 4 principals, and we will do that with our team. I'm very excited about the number of people who are eager to participate in this work. So thank you, Jermaine and Cindy, for being a part of that committee. Just a reminder, the Capital Improvement Project Manager, Joe Kasoriak, will be at our next Board of Ed meeting in November to update us on our capital project. We met today, and the team is excited to be able to bring sample sketches to our various sample sketches of various parts of the project. We'll be bringing those to staff, students, and community members during the months of November and December. So excited about that. And then lastly, I wanted to give you a quick update on our Spanish teacher. I know we had some questions about how we're doing in the hunt for a new Spanish teacher. Nate and I did interview somebody. Penny was involved. She helped recruit somebody. We were really excited. We interviewed and offered somebody the position, and despite being really excited, she did unfortunately decline the position. However, all hope is not lost. We do have a new applicant that we are interviewing early next week. So please stay tuned for that. So we are not giving up. We're doing a great job with what we have, but I just want the board to know and the community know that we are actively pursuing an in-person teacher for that. Thank you, Isabella. But also interesting, we do have somebody starting next week that's going to be here at least 2 days a week. She's a community member and somebody who was recommended by Penny, but she's going to be here to support our students 2 to 3 days a week, starting with our 7th graders, and that starts next week. Okay. And that is it from me. So now please welcome Molly Perrin and Rachel Davis to the podium.
There you go. All right. Hi, everyone. I know most of you. I'm Molly Perrin. I'm a school social worker here at Honeoye.
Rachel Davis, school psychologist.
So we just wanted to take a few minutes tonight to talk a little bit about our mental health team here at Honeoye, our unique roles, the things that we really specialize in, and then some of the things that all of us do and we collaborate on a daily basis. So I can kind of start out with me, so that's who I know the most about. So a lot of my role is really leveraging and connecting our community with resources. And so as all of you know, as Honeoye community members, we are a rural district. Our poverty rate hovers right around 40%. Where we are is not easily accessible all the time to community resources. And so a lot of my work is developing the community resource guide, which is done, but continuing to keep that updated, and also really supporting families in connecting with and accessing resources. And so on a day-to-day basis, I'm working with families on connecting to mental health counseling, connecting to insurance and making sure that they have insurance, connecting to physicians and doctors, whether that's collaborating with medical providers or it's helping find a medical provider, in addition to other resources like financial resources, helping make sure that students can go on trips if the financial need is there, helping make sure that students have access to food and clothes, those basic needs, because we know that our students can't learn if those needs aren't met. If those basic needs for safety and shelter are not met, we can't expect our students to be able to be here and present in school and achieving all that they can achieve. And so really my goal is to make sure that students know that we can meet those needs and know who to access to meet those needs, because then they can do their job, which is to be a student here. So that's a huge part of my job and something that's unique to my role. In addition to connecting families with outside resources, I've done a lot of work to help bring resources to Honeoye. We know that it can be really hard if you're a working parent to pick your kid up during the school day and take them to an appointment and bring them back. And so I've done a lot of advocacy and coordination with Mosaic Health to bring school-based dental services here to Honeoye, in addition to working with Mrs. Fluke on bringing Ontario County Mental Health into the building, having a satellite location where they can provide those mental health services on site and bill insurance for a clinical service, instead of having to go through the intake process and transport out to that clinic. So that's something that I'm really excited about and I continue to pursue, is welcoming those outside partners into our building and offering that to families. In addition, I am an instructor for teen mental health first aid and youth mental health first aid. So I push into every 10th grade class and teach teen mental health first aid, which is a 6-week course on identifying and responding to mental health needs in classes, so between peers, as well as youth mental health first aid, which is a 6.5-hour course for adults to help youth who might be experiencing mental health challenges. So those are some of the unique parts of my job, but there's also things that we all do that we'll touch on a little bit later.
And since I know a lot about being a school psychologist, I will talk about that piece. So again, the kind of that middle column is what is unique to being a school psychologist. And this is just things that Andrea Johnson and myself do. We both work with kindergarten through 12th grade. And so we do testing and report writing for those initial referrals to the Committee on Special Education, as well as reevaluations. So those happen every 3 years by New York State mandate. So we are doing a lot of that testing. We also are 504 case managers, and we do reevaluations as part of that, as well as just following and making sure, following the students and making sure that all their needs are being met in the classroom and their 504s are being followed. We also develop and write functional behavior assessments. So when students may be experiencing some behavioral challenges in the classroom, we take lots of data, get lots of information, and kind of look at it and try to figure out kind of what is driving this behavior and what do the students need. And based on that, depending on what the FBA tells us, we might develop a behavior intervention plan in order to help teachers and adults working with that student kind of manage some of those challenging behaviors. We also, this isn't necessarily listed on the slide, but we do consult with teachers and classroom staff about behaviors that maybe don't rise to the level of needing to do those formal assessments, but just kind of what are some simple changes that you could do within your classroom. And then we also, as part of kind of the testing process, we test and plan for out-of-district students as well. So sometimes we're traveling to different schools and doing those evaluations. So again, that's kind of what just the school psychologist does. And then I'll talk about in a minute where we all overlap.
Kate Van Laer and Evan Carrier weren't able to be here tonight, but I did talk with them and wanted to share a little bit about their unique roles as well. So as school counselors, a lot of their focus is on that individualized academic planning and goal setting. Their goal is how can we help these students be the best that they can be so that they can achieve whatever their goals are for the future. Some of what they do to get to that point is classroom guidance lessons. Mr. Carrier, Evan starts those in middle school. So really thinking about those self-assessments and those career inventories and how we can start planning early on for the future. That goes all the way up through high school, including talking about applying for scholarships and financial aid and colleges or other workforce opportunities. In addition, our counselors do all of our master scheduling, which is a huge, huge undertaking to coordinate all of those classes and to be able to have all of the offerings we do as such a small school in a way that all of the students who want those classes can take them. So that is a big undertaking for them. Kate Van Laer coordinates all of our standardized tests and the administration of those. So things like our PSATs, our ACT, or the SATs, AP tests, all of those, we are able to deliver in-house, which is another huge strength of our district, that students can stay here to take those. In addition, Kate works to help coordinate local scholarships and award nominations. I know we mentioned the Rotary Award earlier. So Kate is really pivotal in helping recognize students who are deserving of whether it's scholarships or awards and making sure they're recognized. In addition, both of our counselors collaborate with outside partners, including FLCC, to be able to offer dual enrollment classes. And so we have lots of students who are graduating with Gemini credits and with a lot of college credits under their belts for when they're ready for whatever's next.
And then lastly, I'll talk about kind of where our roles overlap. And as you can see, that list is quite long. So we do all 5 of us do a lot of the same things on a day-to-day basis. A very large part of our job is doing that individual and group counseling. So if one of those services is listed on a student's IEP, one of us will obviously do that, but also what we call district level. So if a teacher or even a student advocates, like I really want to talk to somebody about something, then we'll see them as well, and one of us will add them to our caseload. If they don't need more of that long-term service or intervention, we can do some more brief interventions such as student check-ins. Sometimes it's just to kind of get them through a short-term difficult period, or they want help solving one problem, and we'll do that. We also do crisis intervention and assessments when students are having some really big difficulties, such as when we get called for the student support team, when somebody is really having a hard time in the classroom. We all use the therapeutic crisis intervention for schools approach, and Evan and I are TCIS trainers, so we're also on a mission to train all of our staff in the TCIS approach as well. which is basically just a way to help kids stay in the classroom. And if they are starting to have some difficulties, how to de-escalate them. So it's for the staff and the way that the staff can intervene in the most therapeutic and trauma-based, trauma-informed intervention possible. We all every day collaborate with families, teachers, administrators, and community members on a variety of topics, and we're constantly communicating with all of those different areas. We are, Molly, Andrea, Evan and I are pushing into all the elementary classrooms this year to do zones of regulation, and we are using a new digital curriculum that we are loving. It's awesome. The kids are loving it. It's interactive. They get to do fun activities, and I think it's going really well. So that's K-12 or K-5. And then we sit on a number of teams, the student support team, where we're kind of talking about kids and what interventions we're going to implement, the trauma, illness, and grief team when some crisis happens and how we're going to intervene in that way, and also the district safety team, which you guys know about that. So thank you.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of kind of what we do in a nutshell. We're a very small team, but I'd like to say we're a mighty team. We work together really well to make sure that we capture and respond to the needs of all the students and staff we're working with. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Rachel, could you possibly touch on the difference between a 504 and an IEP?
Absolutely.
We would love to.
I would love to. So they kind of come from different federal regulations. So an IEP comes from IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and that is looking at if a student, that's part of the evaluation to see if a student needs a specialized program because they're not able to access the general education curriculum like their peers. In addition to the program, we can do different supplementary aids and services and testing accommodations on an IEP. A 504 is under a different federal regulation, and it is looking at how we can support students that don't need a specialized program, but they might need some of those additional supports and services, but they can still access the general education curriculum with some of those additional things. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions?
I would just like to say, I think this is a great slide, something that I almost want to see when I get my folder when the kid, before school starts, just to know that you guys are here.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to send out to families maybe next year
Yeah.
before the school. So I would hold on to this because I think it's great because I don't think a lot of people know that you guys are in the building.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I think it gets overlooked. So thank you for all that you do.
That's a good idea. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to add, I cannot express how thankful we are to have Molly and Rachel and the entire mental health team as part of our HCS community. So thank you so much. You do so much for our students and our families, and we are very appreciative. Thank you. All right, up next, please welcome Nate Schneckenberger to the podium.
Thank you. So what I really want to do is just go through and give the board an update really with what's been happening since September to now, and then any questions that you have as I'm going through, please, if you have questions I'm going through, please hop in. So really what I'm looking to touch on tonight is I want to talk about some of the data that we analyzed with teachers really to kick off the year and kind of frame our instruction. I want to talk about the academic progress of our students to this point. And give an update on advanced placement courses, National Honor Society induction, a distance learning update from the grant we'd received, and then talk about some financial aid information that we have going out to parents. Okay. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get back. Those are some good pictures. Okay, so the first piece, this is an example of some of the data that we looked at to kick off the year with teachers. We had done this last year. Really, we were looking at trend data. So we looked at it for this year, we looked over 3 years, the last 3 years. And what you see on the left, and it kind of came out blurry, so I apologize for that. But what it is on the left is really a breakdown of the standards and what those, and a description of what those are. In the blue is the type of question it is. So whether it's multiple choice or constructive response. And then what we did this year, I worked with Mrs. Squino, as well as Mr. Angel. And what we did together is we came up with, we discovered anyways, that we can set the parameters within this data. So when we get this data, we can put in what we want to take a look at specifically. So what we put in anyways was a 10% gap. So we want to see 10% either way. We want to see where we were outscoring the region by 10%. And we also wanted to see where we were scoring 10% or less than the region, really to kind of zero in on what we wanted to focus on for this year. So this is an example. This is from grade 6 math. So what you see in the green right there are really areas, standards, and questions where we were outscoring the region by 10% or more. The white shows not a difference of 10% on either end. And then if it was a 10%, if we were 10% lower than the region, then it'd be in red. And we use that data over 3 years. So we weren't focusing on a certain cohort, but really to look at our instruction. So we think if there's a pattern over 3 years where we can identify, okay, it's that standard over a 3-year period where our kids are really scoring lower than we need to, or it's a place that we're crushing it. We also want to know that. So that's really what you use as a basis when we went through it. But what we did different this year, last year, I provided to the teachers individually. So they looked at their own subject area, they looked at their own data. They did go through and identify these patterns, but what we did different this year was we did it as a department because it is, right, it's contributing. So it's coming all the way up through. So really we were looking at from 6 to, we took it up through the Regents test that they have at the high school level. So we took a look at like 6th grade state test, 8th grade, and then at the high school level, the Regents test. And so not only were they identifying patterns, but also commonalities between the grade levels. Because what we asked them to do then in the end is to come up with an action plan for this school year that identified areas that we need to focus on, but then what each grade level can contribute. So that was really what they did. And then they submitted action plans, which we're going through right now to take a look at closer, but it was just, I thought it was a better way to have like vertical alignment and see everybody's contribution to close the gaps that we've been able to identify. So that's how we kind of framed it to kick off instruction this year and give them like a clear focus. Here is just, I want to give a progress report, academic progress report for both middle school and high school. So this is grade 6, 8. And this is from the previous week. So it's, we're a couple weeks out here. But in blue, you'll see the percentage of students at each grade level that are passing all of their courses. The orange is the percentage of students that have below a 65 in one class. And then the gray is students who have a 65 or below in 2 or more classes. But we have had a bit of movement already. So again, we're looking at percentages, but I know these kids specifically. So when you see 7 and 10 and 3 and 5, I know their names. I know what they need. That is the beauty of this place. So we have had movement already in the 7th grade. So that I know we moved one of the kids that was failing 2 to just failing 1 now. One of the kids was failing 1 into passing all of them. And I still expect that to come up a bit because this is the end of the marking period this week. And that's typically kids got makeups to do or whatever, they usually get it done and can raise that up. So I expect those to go up a little bit more. Yep. Go ahead.
I have one question. It's grade 7. Do you think because of that Spanish class that there's kids failing more than 2? Are most of them from that Spanish?
It's not all of that.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah. That's a good question. There we have the high school. So same deal. Blue is passing all their courses, percentage of kids passing all their courses. Orange is failing 1, and gray is failing 2 or more. Again, this was at the, I think it was October 25th. I pulled this data.
I have a quick question. And it escapes me what year the COVID kids were, right? So like I think we identified those 5th graders as being, impacted by being out with COVID. Do you recall that conversation? Like there were certain grades that were impacted greater than others. And do you see that trend in these classes here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of tough because it depends on where they were. They were all at, some phase of it. So the degree of impact. So it's really, 18, 19 was our I think it lasts the full year we had, and then the other ones were interrupted after that piece. So depending on where they were right at that time, is that what you're asking, the impact? Yeah, so I think it's a little tougher call because depending on, where they are, and, I mean, you can make an argument, I guess, for any grade level of,
So like if you go back to the sixth grade, those kids were in second grade, and that's really when a big jump in reading, writing. And in the last slide, like if you go to sixth grade, a lot of them are like, I'm just trying to give you, is that kind of what you're looking for? So like a child that was in second grade when they're learning to read and write, a crucial time, now they're in sixth grade, and they're all past it. Like that's one of the better,
right. So
sorry.
yeah, no, yeah. And I think
Yeah, like 94% of them.
Anything else on those? Okay. So next I want to give an update on advanced placement courses. So what we have in the graph is the number of students, the number of tests that we're taking, over the last several years. And then on the far right, what I have is projected. It's actually a little higher than that. So right now we have 34 individual students that are taking AP classes, but we actually projected to give 37 AP exams. 3 of those students are taking 2 AP classes. And I think at this point we have all the kids, I believe, confirmed and signed up for their AP exams, which take place in May. So, I mean, you'll take a look at the last years, we have a considerable increase in the number of students that we have projected to take AP exams this year. And again, it's back to, and I don't have to go through it all because it's what we did when we were first proposing these courses, but I do think it's going to make our kids much more competitive when they're looking to apply to selective colleges. And I think the other piece that we did that I'm proud of us doing is, when we talk about equity, I just heard it tonight, we talk about equity and inclusiveness. We've made these tests available to kids without cost to families. So as far as it being a financial barrier, we've removed that. So they could say, I don't have money for one test, right? I've got money for one, but I can't do 2. We've removed that piece. So if the kid wants to pursue this and they have the skill set to pursue it and they want to put in the work, then we've removed that financial barrier so they absolutely can. Overall, we've got currently 15 college level courses. So between Gemini, FLCC, and the AP courses we have this year, we have 15 courses. Our enrollment, that's not individual kids. Kids are taking more than one, but we have 195 enrollments in some college level course this year. And the content areas that covers are down below.
Excuse me. Just to clarify, you said for total enrollment, that's the classes or number, that's not number of students you said, correct?
No, right. So it's also like if you were taking three classes, that'd be a 3 count for you alone.
Okay,
So it's
gotcha.
195 enrollments in a college course, but a student could be taking multiple and likely are here. National Honor Society. So I think Isabel, I think you were talking about. So we have 17 new inductees. There's 2 seniors and 15 juniors who are going to be inducted here on the 21st. We have 18 current members, so that'll bring our total to 35 kids here at Honeyway that are going to be in National Honor Society come the 21st. So if anybody would like to join, it's 7 o'clock in the cafeteria. And I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Bunce. He's been doing a really, really nice job with National Honor Society. A quick distance learning update. So at this point, we have received, so that was from the grant that we received. We have received the equipment at this point, I believe all of it. It's currently stored down in our career cafe. Installation is scheduled to start, or actually to start and finish on the 26th, the day before we go on break. They're looking to get all of that installed. So we have both that room, and then there's also a mobile unit that we're looking to put down in the room off the library, one of the classrooms that are off the library there. So there'll be this space is more permanent, and then there'll be a mobile unit down there. And again, this came from the grant that was written in this regard. Right now, there's 8 schools in the region that were awarded this grant. And we've also taken a look at potential partner districts. So that's really, that really revolves around bell schedules. So I'd have to line up with someone for us to be able to share a course. I'd have to say, okay, our 3rd period, with whoever lines up, and if they're offering something that we don't have and we have something they don't have, that's how this could kind of come to be, to offer our kids more. That's really the intention. So when they talk all the regionalization and they're talking about cooperation within the region, I think we've got to step up on a lot of places. At least these 8 schools do. It's just a matter of kind of coordinating those pieces and seeing what we can offer. But that's where that stands currently. And then financial aid info for families. So we have a financial aid information night on November 19th, right here in the LGI from 6 to 7. We've got the word out. I think that's already gone out to parents from Miss Van Lair. And I do want to also thank Miss Van Lair for her work on this. Last year, we were looking to coordinate more of a workshop, and I think you might have brought it up because we wanted to, I thought it was a great idea. Instead of just providing the information, what you see on the 16th is an actual workshop where if families bring their information here, they can do it, complete the FAFSA, submit it, and leave the LGI here with their kids' financial aid forms being submitted. So we couldn't really get it to work out with FLCC last year, or I think they, were willing to host it at their place, but we wanted somebody to come here. So then she got in touch with Geneseo, and they were happy to partner with us and come out here. So the 19th is information for families. So if they want to take the information and run and do it on their own, that'll get them set up to do that. On the 16th, if they want to bring it and get it finished and submit it that night, they can do it then on December 16th. So I'm happy to do that. And I'm pleased that she coordinated that with Geneseo and that they're willing to do it with us. So good stuff, I think. And then we've been through that piece. But what I will say as far as the cross country meet, and that was there as well, it was just really, I thought it was like very, I guess, like indicative of Honeywell. We're standing in the crowd and it's like, it's the students and it's the families and it's, teachers and administrators and like everybody cheering for the kids and cheering for Bob. And I'm like, gosh, this is it was just a really nice feeling. So aside from like all the awards, and we've already covered it tonight, which is great. And they did a great job, but it was also like that piece, like that Honeywell piece, it was pretty awesome. So I think that is the gist of what I had. Any questions from anybody?
I just wanted to say that, so something that you said early on kind of struck me and is going to stick in my head for a while. When you were looking at the numbers and you said, they're not just numbers, I know these kids. Like that matters to, as a parent, that matters, but to the kids that matters. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
It's important.
It's true.
Thank
And
you.
it's
And
nice. It's nice.
It makes me
Thank you.
proud to see all of this, the numbers, the work, the commitment. Everybody's noticing. And I think that's part of what you're seeing in the, things like the cross country event, like the Honeywell. That is Honeywell. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Thank you.
All right, and I just want to say thank you again to Nate for his incredible work, for him collaborating with Erica and with Matt. I thank you to this team, and it's just obvious what a great job he's doing and for our kids and families. So Nate, can we give Nate a round of applause too? Thank you so much. All right, at this time, we're going to turn it over to Mike Bastian for the business office report.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I wanted to bring the board just the reserve status update. This was shared with the board actually a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago or so, and wanted to just project it here and say a couple words. That is, this is the picture of our reserves as of June 30th, 2024. And I'll just walk you through the columns really quick so that we can anchor into what this is again. The first column is showing our balance at the start of the 23-24 school year. That's July 1st of 23. And then you'll see what was spent as part of 23-24 budget allocations. So when we build a budget, we are often pledging from our reserves, from, in this case, workers' comp, unemployment, EBLAR, and the ERS retirement reserve. So those were planned allocations in 23-24. And then the board will remember that we transferred out $4.3 million from the capital reserve to get it over to the capital fund for our 2024 capital project. So that is seen as a deduct or a transfer out of reserves and then into the capital fund for that project over the next few years. So you'll see those deductions. Then we see in 23-24, the third column, the interest earned. We had robust interest rates last year. That was very good as a revenue creator source for the district. So you'll see those amounts to each reserve based on the monies that were in there. And then we see at the end of year, the board will remember that you authorized transfer of excess budget surplus from 23-24 to 3 different reserves: the capital reserve, the ERS retirement reserve, and the workers' comp reserve. And then in the far column, we see the reflections of each of those reserves and their balances after the deducts and the additions that I've already explained. And that's what we get over at the end of your reserve balances. So any questions on that before I go on? Great. Next topic, and I do have a lot of information here. This has really been a lot of learning over the last 2 months. We have, the board may remember, we have actually 2 capital outlay projects going every year, the end of one and the start of the other. The capital outlays are when we do interior hallway doors, right? We also have our $10 million capital improvement project, which, as Tori and Jim have mentioned, a lot of meetings and a lot of work going on with that. And now we find ourselves faced with this emergency situation in the auditorium in regards to our air conditioning. And we are bringing to the board tonight a request for an emergency capital project. So we just keep going with the capital projects here. This is the season that we're in. Board will remember, we've talked about the age of our building. We've talked about our last full BCS, building condition survey, being in 2015. We've talked about how in the past the district didn't always have capital projects to do those improvements on a regular basis as frequently as we wish had been the case. And this is an example of what's happened here. So I'm going to try to tie in a lot of different elements as I go through this. So first of all here, excuse me, we had some initial issues in July of 24. We found that there was an issue with a fuse, seemed to be a little bit of electrical issue, a fan motor, found out that fan motor was burned out. We had the BOCES HVA team come and visit. We've had a hard time finding private HVAC folks over the last couple of years. So BOCES has been a great resource. They have an excellent team. They visited in August. In addition to that fan motor situation, they also found some leaks in the fluid lines for the refrigerant, and then actually found that one of the 2 compressors up on the roof, the compressor motor, was shot. Realizing what had happened, first, we have an age issue. We have a 24, 25-year-old unit. It did not come out as a BCS issue in 2015. It was only 15 years old then. And we've had other priority issues that we have looked at from 2015 that absolutely made it into the capital improvement project that we're working on now. And the air conditioner did not rise to that level. Because of the age of our building, the age of some of these additions and some of the renovations, we are finding ourselves in a spot where this could be a possibility. We also had a perfect storm, literally and figuratively, with some weather issues this summer, where we had several electrical storms, and the on and the off and the power out, and then the power coming back on, disrupted and actually degraded the electrical components of that air conditioning unit, and it happened multiple times. So we really did have a perfect storm between the age of the unit, some of these leaks and some of these compressor and fan and motor issues, and then also these electrical storms and the on and off, the power interruptions and what that did. So we had a lot of those different things going on, some of these electrical faults and groundings and such. So by September, we can move to the next slide. By September, BOCES realized as they came out a second time and a third time, the issues just kept piling up and they kept discovering new things. And they said, look, really, what needs to happen is you need a whole new system. Okay. And I'm showing you pictures here of some of the different elements as I go through. So the district raised concerns about this. We had not planned this as a project. We had not planned this as an expense. It was not in the capital improvement project that we're discussing. So at our September CIP meeting, we brought this up. We had the architect on hand. We had engineers on hand, mechanical engineers on hand. And there was a real quick consideration, right, Jim and Tori, real quick consideration of could we get it into the capital improvement plan now? But the realization, one, is we would have to take other things out, and 2, the work wouldn't be done until 26 or 27. Everybody can think of what May and June is like in our auditorium, how important our auditorium is for graduation, for all those events, for the concerts. We have some folks come in from the community. We're talking about grandparents and such, people with medical issues and needs. Will not be a good situation to not have air conditioning for our spring and summer events, okay? So not having auditorium AC was deemed as unacceptable given the district and community use. It is also some things to remember. It's our largest and only large space with air conditioning, right? We know that New York State is increasing, it has new regulations in terms of hot days and heat days and what we have to do if we have a hot day. I remember years ago in summer school, on the hottest day of summer school, 10 years ago, we had to take all the kids out of those classrooms and put them in the auditorium, and we had little mini classrooms in the auditorium. So again, it's not just a convenience, or wouldn't it be nice to have it cool during a play or a concert or a graduation? but it really can be a safety issue and a health issue for our students and staff and community. So we had to begin planning immediately so that we can be in a place where we can host these things this spring, especially graduation. So we did that. In October, we collaborated with SWBR, Joe Kosorik, our architect, and then M&E Engineering, who SWBR uses as their engineers, drafted emergency project rationale, drafted an initial budget, and then Joe, our architect, presented this to NICED, the New York State Department of Education, the Building and Facilities branch of NICED. And he presented this to him in his role as our architect and said, look, this was an emergency. It really wasn't preventable. It wasn't due to a lack of maintenance or consideration. He explained the storms and all these other things and said we were asking the state to declare this, NICED to declare this an emergency. And if they declare it emergency, we can pay for it now and we'll get our aid, our building aid at 64%. We'll get it back next year. 1 year, quick, done, easy. Wouldn't that be great? But the state has really limited scope for what they call an emergency. Like they just want you to get you back on your feet. And they did not see this despite all of we were back and forth and great argumentation and great persuasive, emails and such. And they said, nope, we're not going to call this a 1 year aid return emergency, but your Board of Education can declare it an emergency. So the Board of Education has local control to step in and say, we got to protect our people. We got to protect our physical assets, our facilities and our building. And that's one of the roles of a Board of Education to go ahead and authorize an emergency project. In that case, the aid would come back over 15 years. So our 64% on the price of this project, we'll get it back divided over 15 years. And I'm just showing you the pictures again, different components. It's all being replaced. Like everything I'm showing you, it would be replaced in this project, including what's on the roof. So then in continuing in October, we work with our attorney, Bethany Centrone, on an emergency project resolution. That's what the board was shared with the board and you have before you tonight. Remembering again, the local Board of Education has the authority and responsibility to consider an emergency capital and ordinary contingent expense to ensure the human safety and also to protect facility assets. When we're talking about emergency project, what we're asking the board to authorize, it's very different from a typical capital improvement process. There is not going out to the community to vote. There's not a community vote on this. The board has the authority and takes the action as a unit to approve this expenditure and to approve this project. There's a different bidding parameters at a different level, lesser level than for a regular capital improvement project. We submit the project and all the paperwork after the fact. We do it, we get a contractor, we do it, and then we turn in the paperwork. We have that pre-approval. That's what you get from the state to say, if your board declares it, we're gonna say, yep, you can do that and get aided over 15 years. When you're done, you turn everything in and then it's processed, okay? Again, our project budget is, we've got that in the resolution language, not to exceed $550,000. There actually has already been a lot of research on the part of the engineers and the architect to see what these components will cost, and they are not cheap. This is a large scale replacement here. So $550,000. Of course, this was not budgeted for. You don't budget knowing what a potential emergency could be. So we would be spending out of that 4% unassigned fund balance. The board may remember that is 4% of the 24-25 school year. That is the state limit of what you can keep in undesignated or unassigned fund balance. So we would spend from there. And that's what the authorization will do for us. Then if fiscal year 24-25, if we end up at the end of June 25 with any budgetary surplus, we would absolutely want to and need to replace that undesignated fund balance. To move forward with depleted undesignated fund balance would be a fiscal liability for us, especially as we head towards bonding for our major capital improvement project, right? So we want to be able to do that. We need to expend the funds. This is an emergency, the air conditioning there, all the reasons that we've said why we need to do that. This is our option at this point. I said the district will receive the building aid on 64% of the project expenses. So if we assume 500,000 So I went a little lower just for round numbers. If we assume $500,000 of expenses can be aided at 64%, that's $321,000. Divided by 15 years, we would be looking at getting $21,433 per year because of this project, this emergency project, as an aid revenue source. Okay. Next slide. The project purchase will include the purchase and installation of the new air handler unit. This picture is the air handler. It's huge. It's in a room brick building on our roof. There's a brick building next to the auditorium, and this sucker is huge. This is a very large unit. There'd also be some new plumbing, some lines, the fluid lines. There'd be a new chiller unit, which is actually going to be in that room as well. So that's a new component, some new electrical protections. So some things that would help prevent that grounding or faulting that did occur. Any other electrical, plumbing, HVAC components, and then also the design, the labor, and paying for our professional services, attorney, architect, and the engineers who are involved with this project. Okay, and then finally, our next steps, asking tonight in just a moment for a board authorization, as you've had the resolution paperwork in front of you for a bit now. We would be then immediately working with our architect and our engineers on the final design proposal, and then come back to get the district approval on that. They were looking to have what's called, in this case, it's different than a regular capital project, what they called a document set or a contractor set of documents. Okay, not as detailed with the blueprints and such, but it's information that can be given to contractors so they can make a reasonable quote, estimate, or bid. We can and are very likely going to secure a contractor off a state contract. That is absolutely feasible for capital emergency project. Then we would engage with a contractor in January of 25. The contractor would order the equipment. We're looking at a 2 to 4 month lead time on that equipment, which puts us at a May installation to have cold air flowing by the end of the year, by end of May or June for the end of the year. And then we would submit the project documents and close everything out by the end of June. So this is a whirlwind. This is a fast process. We needed to get started right when we heard about the issues, August, September, and into October. That's why we bring it before you tonight and ask the board to authorize this project, and so we can move forward in a timely manner. Are there any questions? Again, next slide, I'd mentioned you'd been provided with the seeker statement on environmental impact and also the emergency project resolution. And then we are asking if any questions, and then if we can move forward with that resolution.
Yeah, I have some questions here. Can you remind us again the age of the air conditioning unit?
24, 25 years. Yeah.
25 years. And do you know what the lifespan of a piece of equipment like that
About
is?
that, we're in the reasonable consideration of the
Okay.
lifespan.
And I know we talked offline about why, a piece like this wouldn't be included in projects. And I think I heard you mention that we had other priorities lined up before this because we hadn't had any problems with this unit. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. And so then the number $500,000 was based on experience by us. SBWR, I can't get the letters right, but we just happened to have them sitting there when it happened, and from their experience, they pulled this number out.
So
correct?
more so, yes, SWBR, but more so M&E Engineering, who works
Okay.
with SWBR. So they immediately got right on it. I mean, they really did.
Okay.
And it in no way negatively impacted their work on the main capital improvement project, but they got right on it, and they did
Okay.
research into the prices of the equipment. They talked to us about the different systems that we'd want to consider, new refrigerants and all that. So yeah, they did a nice job on that.
Do we expect any structural work to the roof or the building to support the larger size of?
No, so it's not that the new unit will be larger in size or
Yeah.
weight. We're actually going to use existing roofing curbs, the
Okay.
compressor that's outside, it's gonna sit right on the same one that the old one, the current one is. And that is also not going to interfere. I asked if it would interfere with the roof improvements that will be done in the capital project. Everything's gonna work
Okay.
together,
Excellent.
dovetail nicely.
And then, so if I heard you right, like, we're gonna approve tonight, or ideally, we would approve tonight. And then the people who would be in charge of this is a list of contractors from NICEAD, right? Is that what you said? We don't have to follow a bid out process?
We don't have to follow the same bid out process
Okay.
of blind bids or closed bids. We can go to the state approved, the state contracted list and select an HVAC contractor from there.
Okay.
Correct.
And we're hoping that this would all be completed by graduation, end of June timeframe.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike, is there any sort of warranty on the new equipment that they'll be installing?
Haven't seen warranties yet because final selection of model and such haven't been determined, but we will certainly seek that information out and expect with any large equipment purchase like this, that there will be some sort of warranty length, but we do not know that yet. Yeah. Any other questions? Jem, would now be the appropriate time for the board to act on the resolution? Okay.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I would need a motion to accept the resolution for the emergency project.
I'll move.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes.
Also, just want to point out, I think Mike said in his presentation, not only is this important for our students with the new heat advisory days and such, but this is also, the auditorium could be a place for our community should we experience a heat wave and, say rolling brownouts or whatever during the summertime. Our community people could have a place to come and cool down during the summer months. So it's really important, not to students, but also the community.
I want to just add too, I want to just say thank you to Mike, because the work that went into coming up with this to propose to you tonight, it took a lot of work. He's got a lot of other things to do. And I think that the swiftness, this became a priority just because of what you just said. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. That was a lot of work in a little amount of time.
And Tori, I'd just like to add something else for the board and the community. This is going to make this upcoming budget season even more difficult. Not only will we be dealing with a different state aid foundation formula, perhaps, but probably 60% of our district is going to be re-evaluated on their home and property assessments this coming March. And also, now we have to replace probably $500,000 from our unassigned fund balance. So those three things alone will make this a more difficult budget season than we've seen in the past. And I just want the community and the board to realize that, so.
I think I'd like to add too, but thankfully we have the fund to have this money come out of, because some schools may not have that. And then what would we do?
And that's exactly why we have it. It's our savings account for the unexpected. And unfortunately, here we are.
Okay, so thank you. We look forward to that getting done. All right, we will move on with the consent agenda. I would need a motion to approve the minutes from October 9th and the CSE minutes.
I'll move.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's passed. Then I need a motion, moving on to the treasurer report, a motion for the September 2024 treasury report.
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's passed. We'll move on to personnel. We have a resignation. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to accept the following resignation for a mastermind co-advisor effective November 6, 2024. Motion to accept, please.
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's passed. Then we have a list of appointments covering the 2024-2025 secondary extracurriculars for detention supervisor, masterminds co-advisor, 6 through 8 literacy club coordinator, major play costume designer. And then for the elementary extracurriculars, 3 literacy club teachers, also a long-term substitute special education teacher, and 2024-2025 coaches for JV boys basketball and varsity boys indoor track. I would need a motion on those.
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
Just a comment. The long-term substitute special education teacher, that was very nice to see. And that is definitely in the best interest of the students. So that's wonderful of the person to do that.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is passed. Moving on to new business, old business. We have 2 invoices, one from Capital Region BoCES and one from Bond, Shonik and King. I would need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
And I need a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, that's passed. We have memorandums of agreement. We have 3 of those, one for HTA MOA sub shortage for 24-25, then the HSSA Lunar New Year MOA for 24, and the HASA Lunar New Year MOA 2024. I need a motion to approve those.
I move.
Can I get a second? All right, any questions or comments? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, that's passed. Then we go to substitute rate of pay. Upon the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to approve the following substitute pay rate for substitute bus drivers of $21.93 an hour.
I'll move.
Second,
I'll second.
questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's passed. Then we have a contract for an administrator coach. They would need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
In a second,
I'll second.
questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's passed. And then we move on from comments from the Board of Education. Does anybody have anything for that? No? All right, I do. Jim Sykes is not here this evening. He asked just to be brought up about the Honeoye Hometown Christmas and if the board would like to consider putting in our own funds again to purchase the Christmas tree and decorate it downtown. Just wanted me to put it out there for information for everybody. We can, make plans and whatever later, but I told him I would take care of that, so check it off my list. The other thing is that our goals, I've been putting those together. I appreciate everybody checking those out. I would like to bring those to the next board meeting and have us adopt those. If everybody wants to take like a final look through everything, if you have any suggestions on wording, or you want to see something else added or something omitted, just let me know. We'll talk about it. And then when we come back next month, if there's anything that needs to be taken care of, we can fix it quick, and then we'll adopt those if everybody agrees to that. And then I also went into the Board of Education handbook and updated the norms and working agreements that we agreed on in our, which seems like forever ago, but it really wasn't, in our workshop that we had. So those are all updated, and just so that you are aware, because it says in there, or it said under public comment, that it went still with the old number of 3 minutes. So I did make the change to 5 for that, or I think I put in the wording up to 5. So just so you're aware, I did change that. And then the only other like thing that really stuck out at me in the handbook was in different places, there are policies that are talked about. And because I know the policy committee meets and sometimes things change, like, I don't know if the policy committee at some point wants to kind of look at those, or on your own, I don't know, whatever you want to do, but just check those out and make sure they actually are still a policy. The number didn't change, because I know Jermaine, you just said one did change the number. So if we can just make sure that they correlate with actually what's in our policy book, so we don't confuse anybody, including ourselves. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank everybody again for approving me to attend the NISBA digital experience. I did share with everybody all the information. I mean, I would need hours to tell you everything they talked about, but there were so many outstanding topics, everything from recruiting and training staff to mental health things for students and staff. There's one school that has like they make pods of kids and a teacher, and they go from 9th grade to 12th grade in the same pod. So if you come into school and they meet every day, and if you're having a bad day, you know, when you get to that pod, you're safe and you can tell anybody anything you want. And just, it was amazing to hear the ideas, where they started from. I think that was Buffalo School District, one of the schools there. And it was just amazing. AI was hugely talked about and kind of scary. They have someone called Sophia, and it is a robot. And she was sitting there just like you and I are, Natalie, and you could ask me a question and she would blink her eyes and use her hands and talk and answer your questions on the fly. It's amazing and scary. So I don't know, there were 28 different sessions. Megan joined me for some of them. We did cut out on the last session on the last day. It wasn't like the other ones. It was more of a musical thing, and there was a guy playing instruments. And I think that what we couldn't see is what was happening in real time in the auditoriums and things. So for those people that were there for 3 or 4 days, it was nice. But I was there from, I think, 8 in the morning the one day till 5:30 at night that evening. And then the next day I was back there from 8 to 12 because we cut out on the last one. But so many things. So I hope you do take the time to read through those things, because amazing. Like they have one place also that if you're having problems finding like healthcare to work in the school, you can actually call this place. They will hook you up with somebody. They will come here. And if the arrangement works, you have a contract with them for a year. And then at that time, you have the option of hiring them away from the company, and they will come work here. Just like hearing all the different things that make things work. It was outstanding. So thank you again for allowing me and for Megan to join in when she could. I would do it again. It was great. So thank you.
Tori,
You want me?
Oh, yeah.
I do have one more thing
Sure.
to add. For the winter concession stand, I sent you and Megan and Jermaine some dates, and I haven't heard from anybody. So like after the meeting, could you stay for maybe like a minute and we could just essentially nail that down?
I
Thank
will.
you.
Yes. Sorry that I missed that, but yes, I will do that. Go ahead.
I just want to talk a little about the NISBA conference as well. A lot of the things that they talked about, like our board is already meeting a lot of those recommendations and expectations. So like applaud like all of you guys, because we are already meeting them. Just yet again, we're like just a step above where everybody else is. So that's good to hear, even in the surrounding areas. They talked about teacher shortages, how to recruit, retention, and cost strategies. I think for us, like having our PR person and having like that Facebook media, social media out there kind of spreads the word even more, just instead of it being listed on employment websites and on our website, I think is a great thing to see. And having our other teachers or other staff members are actually sharing it on their social media. So I feel like it's reaching other places. Another thing, effective board meetings. Some board meetings don't have agendas. So I found that very interesting, and those that do don't always stay on task. So again, like applauding everyone for staying on task for our agendas on our board meetings. It does help and everything flow a lot more smoothly. Lastly, absenteeism is a huge thing that they're talking about right now in schools with students. So after we went there, Nate actually sent out a few days later, the secondary school newsletter. So it's great to see that over 95% of our students attendance rate, 95 is really high. So it's good to see that. And 92% of our students, 6 through 12, are passing all of their classes. So that's like great to see as well, because those numbers aren't seen in our surrounding areas on the NISBA when they talked about it. So it's great to see those numbers here in Honeyway. And that's the few things that I caught.
So thank you again, because just the information, it was truly a lot. And it was funny to me, I'm just gonna say this quick, it was funny to me sitting in room 147. I don't think I've sat in room 147 since I was in the 7th grade. And sitting there though, remembering somebody writing on a chalkboard, and then sitting there and watching everything on a computer or on a sonic board, it's like, I don't know, I just never pictured myself sitting there again. So it was awesome. If no one else has any comments for the Board of Education, just there's the warrants are in our information, moving on. And then keep going. And then I don't know, do we need to go into executive session? Okay, what is the reason? So I word that correctly, or you word
Okay,
that correctly?
so to discuss matters leading to the employment of a future employee.
So I will need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second.
All right, any questions, comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and Jermaine, I just ask you if you could pause the recording. Thank you.